We're on the fifth chapter of Pirki Avot, and we finished the first six Mishnahs, which are talking about these tens. Each one talks about things that are 10. God created the world with 10 utterances. There's 10 generations from Adam to Noah, and from Noah, another 10 from Noah to Abraham, and 10 tests that God tested Abraham with, and 10 miracles that God did in Egypt and on the sea, and 10 miracles were done in the Holy Temple. And what we did yesterday, there were 10 things that God created after Adam, just before the sunset on the sixth day of creation. And finally, let's do today. 7. Now, those were we have 6 Mishnahs that talk about tens. Okay, now let's do sevens. 7 things are in a stupid person, and 7 things are in a wise person. A golem. A golem is a person who's stupid. A wise person does not speak before one who is greater than he is in wisdom or in number. Right? There's more people. He lets them talk first, and then he speaks. Waits for permission. A wise person doesn't interrupt the person he's speaking with. You ever have people like that? They won't let you get a word in. Right? You start to talk, and then they interrupt. So a person like that, usually it's a sign that they don't want to hear what you have to say anyway. So if you're smart, you don't answer them. Okay, good. Number 3, Eino nivhal hashiv. A smart person isn't, how do you say, anxious to give an answer. He listens to the question, thinks for a couple seconds, really tries to understand it, and then gives the answer. If he answers too quickly, it's a sign he didn't listen to the question at all. And it could be that really didn't listen to the question. Number 4, when he asks questions only on the topic. And when he gives an answer, he gives the answer according to the Torah. We'll see what these things mean. Number 5, when he answers questions, he answers the first one first and the last one last. Number 6, a wise person, when he's answering questions, so what he never heard, he says, I didn't hear. Right? Someone asked him a question, and he never heard it from anybody, but he's got an answer he made up. So he says, listen, I never heard this answer. I'm going to tell you what I think. That's okay. Number 7, he admits the truth. He admits the truth. Okay, you got me there. Let's have a look. One second. One minute. Oh, good. Here we have the Bartanura. Bartanura. Oh, a little bit long, but that's okay. We can do it. Here we go. Ready? A golem. It says the difference between a stupid person and a wise person. A stupid person calls golem. Let's see if he translates golem stupid like I do. Lashon golemi kelim shelo nigmaro malachtan. There's some people that he's not his mind and his emotions are not mature. He's not wise. That's called a golem. Okay, one of the things of a wise man, let's talk about the wise man first, what the wise man does. And at the end is saying all these things are lacking by a fool. First of all, a wise man, he does not speak before one who is wiser than he. Shekain matzinu be'elazar ve'itamar, shelo ratzu ledaber lifnei avihem, keshekatzav aleim Moshe ve'yeshiv Aaron. Says because when someone is speaking to them, their father in this case, and he was reprimanding them, so they didn't give him back an answer. Here he says, don't speak at all. Right? Unless you get permission to speak, you don't speak. Next, you don't interrupt someone when he's speaking. You don't mix up. Shimu na devarai. You have to wait until the person finishes speaking. Right? And this is talking about a wise person should wait. How much more so If it's a simple person, wait for him to finish. After a person asks you a question, don't be too anxious to answer. Have a little patience. In order that you should answer in a proper way. And also it says in Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu, it says, but Elihu, there's the story about Job. You know the story of Job? Tragic story, you have to read it. But anyway, he has three friends that come to him, and Job is there suffering, and he's got all these boils and all these terrible things happened to him, and he lost all of his money, and he was once rich and famous, and now all of a sudden he's a nothing, and he's suffering. So his three friends come to him, and they say, listen, you must have done something wrong. There has to be something wrong. Maybe God is not righteous. Maybe God is not just. So he says, Keter li ze'ir v'achuch. Says, answer, wait for me a while. Keter li ze'ir. They gave him all these questions, and he said, wait for me a while, and then I'll reply. Sho kal ke'inyan umeshiv kalacha. This is speaking only in one case. What does it mean? A pupil that asks his teacher, kolom, in other words, and that thing that you're dealing with, right? Usually in class, so you're dealing with one subject. So the pupil asks on that subject, so the rabbi receives him properly. But if the pupil asks him on something they're not occupied in, so he brings the Rav that it could be that the rabbi is not thinking on that topic, that he'll answer him improperly. Like it says, Rabbi Chia said to Rav, Ki Kai, Rav, Rebbe, Bahai's Masechta, when Rebbe is learning one topic, don't ask him questions on another topic. And also the same thing we find in the people that were impure in Nefesh Adam. They came up with Pesach Sheni, remember? That came to Moses. Moses was learning the laws of Pesach. So then they asked him in that topic that he was dealing with. That's what it says. Okay, when you answer the first question first and the last question last. So we find with God that God said to Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Paro? Right? God said, I want you to go to Paro and say, tell him that to release my sons, my firstborn, from Egypt. So Moses said back, who am I to go into Paro? That's the first question. Then Moses said a second thing, and I'm going to take the Jews out of Egypt. That's the second question. And God replied on the first one, right? I will be with you. Right? Moses said, I'm going to take Paro, the Jews, out of Egypt. And God said back to him, don't worry, I'm going to be with you. You're not going to be alone. And what about the second one? Okay, the first question was, who am I that I'm going to go to Paro? And God said, I'll go with you. The second one is, you really think that the Jews are going to go out of Egypt? I mean, this is impossible. How can the Jews get out of Egypt? And God said, don't worry, the reason you're leaving Egypt is in order to receive the Torah, and with the merit of the Torah, you'll go out of Egypt. So the first question that Moses had, who am I to go to Paro? God said, I'll be with you. And the second one said, how are we going to get out of Egypt? And God said, don't worry, you'll get out and you'll serve on this mountain. And finally, the last two things are a wise person. What he did not hear, he says, I didn't hear. If there's a law that a person, let's say a rabbi, decides from his own opinion, he shouldn't say, this is what I heard from my rabbis. We find this also in a place called Charon. When Yaakov said, how is Lavan? They said, Shalom. Rachel Bito, here is Rachel, his daughter, is coming with the sheep. Kolomer, in other words, Ze anu yudim, this we know. The im tishal yoter, and if you want to know more, Rachel bito bo matzon. He tagid lecha. If you want to know more, now Rachel is coming with the sheep, and she will come and tell you. The son of Betuel. Ki anachnu lo yadanu yoter. In other words, he said they asked him, "How is Betuel? How is everybody?" So the people said, "Listen, this girl that's coming, that's Rachel, his daughter. And if you want to know more, you'll have to ask her. What we don't know, we can't answer you." So we see from that it's a lesson to us that you shouldn't say that you're sure of things that you're not sure of. If you're not sure, let somebody else answer. Moda el emet, and he admits the truth, even though right. Moda el emet, even though that you can have an opinion and you can base it on your own logic. Nevertheless, don't base it on logic. Base it on what is you're sure is the truth, what it says in the Torah. And also that we find by Moses. Kishisolku Aaron va'omer im shamata b'kodesh sha ein l'chol hakel b'kodesh dorot. When Aaron's two sons, Nadav and Avihu, were killed, so he saw that Aaron was making a certain sacrifice in the temple. He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I read that this is permissible." Moses heard, because it's only a temporary sacrifice. Moses heard, and it was good. The whole time, and he admitted that he was wrong, and he was not ashamed to say, "I never heard that law." But right, I'm sorry. He was not ashamed that he would make up and say, "Well, I never heard that law before." But he said, "I heard that law, but I forgot it." That's what Moshe said. So he wasn't afraid. He was modal emet. You're right, Aaron. I forgot that law. And the opposite is of all these things that we said, that he has patience and he answers the first. Those are a wise person. The opposite, chiluf devarim, but in a golem and a fool, he does all these things exactly the opposite. What does he do? He speaks before those who are greater than him. He interrupts people when they're talking. He answers immediately without thinking about what he's going to say. He answers not according to the topic. When he answers is not in the same order as he was asked in. He says things that he never heard, but he claims to have heard them. Right? This is what Rabbi Akiva said. And he didn't. He just made it up on his own. And he's never willing to admit that he's wrong. That's what a fool does. Good. Have a good day with Mashiach. Now, God willing, tomorrow morning, 8:15, we're learning the Kuti Torah and the Dvar Malchut of the Rebbe. Shalom Uvracha, Yechi HaMelech.